Method. Airwaves. Method. Doug Brown. Method. Airwaves. Doug You are now listening to Method Airwaves with Doug Brown.
Hello, and welcome to Method Airwaves. This is your host, Doug Brown. This is episode number 19, titled Meaning of Life. How heavy does that sound? I'm not a preacher. I'm not going to pretend to change the world with my views here. It's not my intention at all. This podcast idea has been brewing for about a year, actually, and it was just never quite the right time. But today it just hit me for a number of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is today is the day. I mean, life is short. To put things off or to wait is not always a great idea. And I was at a skate park this evening, indoor park, and I was skating hard. I was doing great, feeling good, and I was looking around and I was talking to this one guy that was a good skateboarder, and he seemed a little bit older. So I was like, well, how old are you? And he said, well, I'm 36. And I said, well, I'm 48. And it dawned on me that I was the oldest person in that whole entire building. But I was skating strong. I felt good. I feel like I'm 16, 17 skating most days. And of course out west, when I go to San Diego and places like that, I'm the youngest guy on the ramp. There's skateboarding. It's amazing the age groups out there that still ride. So, not that I'm a young pup, however, it did make me have a moment of, wow, life's fragile. I can't believe I'm still doing this. After all these years, I started in 1986 when I was 12 years old, and I'm still doing it. So I'm really about the moment. The moment is very important. Today, Duran Duran, one of my favorite groups, has a song called All You Need Is Now. And boy, is that true. Now is so important. I try not to live too much in the future, like, well, I'm going to plan this, I got this, I bet you someday I'll build this. Or those philosophies are great. However, focusing on the now and what you can do in today is the most important thing. Of course, what we do in the past, affects where we are now, but I have a lot of hope and optimism, and that's something I like to tell people, to think positive. So that was one thing that kind of lit a fire underneath me to do this podcast. But while driving home, the thing that really hit me was that things that are going on in our world right now. But I've had 3 classmates within like a couple months pass away. People that were my age. I had Rafael Mazzaro, somebody I graduated with. And, it just, it's so sad. And Ellen Starling. I mean, these are people I knew. She had just passed a couple weeks ago. And another classmate named Diana Thomas just passed away yesterday. And I'm sitting there reading her obituary, and it's like I saw her 5 or 6 months ago at a store. And we had talked, and she told me she had cancer, and she was really feeling good and telling me how optimistic she was on life, and we talked for like 15, 20 minutes. She asked about my life, and it's just to think that here one day, gone the next. And my father always warned me. He said, the older you get, the more this is going to happen, where people start passing away, and it starts reaching you more and sinks in, and it affects your psyche and how you view your own life. I've always been sentimental and thought a lot about death. or that it's coming. I don't obsess of it, obviously. That's not healthy either, but my mother, a lot of you know my story, had passed away when I was 16. And boy, that changed my life forever. It made a huge impact on how I view the importance of our actions and why are we here? What's the meaning of life? And she passed away when she was 46. And I'm now 48. So I'll never forget. April 9th, 1990 is the date that she passed away. But when I turned 46 on that April 9th, I said, wow, every single day, even more than before, I need to honor her memory, because now I've already lived 2 years longer than she got to live. And that's heavy for a human being. I mean, just more than it was before. Like I said, I'd always been sentimental, and I always keep her memory alive. But now, even more than ever. So I'm not going to focus on death the whole time and just doom and being pessimistic at all. I mean, the meaning of life is different for every single person. And I've talked a bit about this in my other podcasts. But it's something we really have to question. Why are we here? How are we here? Everybody has a different philosophy on what brought us here. For some, it's primarily maybe religious reasons. And for others, some people don't pay attention to it at all. They're just like, they wake up and today's the day. And that's okay. I respect all the views on this topic. But for me personally, what do I think about life? Oh, it's a heavy one, isn't it? I mean, life is what's in front of us. It is that now, but something more heavy. The most important thing, I think, is relationships. Our mentors, our parents, if you have children, that is humongous. Really, nothing is bigger than the relationship between a kid and their parent and their development. It's monumental. And without a doubt, that's number one. That's our life. And surrounding life, I mean, human beings, I think one of our defects, personally, my opinion, is that we think we're so superior. However, look around. There are other animals, whether it's a butterfly or a cow or a chicken or a fish. Look at what we have in common with them. They eat. They go to the bathroom. They mate. They procreate. We're more like them than people realize. I don't see us as these entities of we're the gods, we're the dominant species. You know, we've done a lot with inventions. We've done extraordinary things as human beings. But when a child is born into this world, they're born into what we give them. Inventions that we piggyback onto, whether it's a vehicle, the computer, electricity. I mean, imagine if you have a child back in caveman days and there's nothing. You're hunting for food, you're, surviving. I think it's why I have such a deep relationship with the wilderness, with nature. I consider myself somewhat of a mountain man. And I've got the years to prove it through some of the things that I've been able to pull off in my lifestyle. Of course, I'm a big fan of amenities. It's great. But I've roughed it a lot in my life. That goes back to my early years through going to boot camps, and that's another podcast. But our relationship with reality, with the wilderness and Earth, because that's really all we have. And that's a big part of life. The planet that we are on. We got to pay attention to it. It's our home. We have to respect it. And when I'm out hiking or just doing anything outdoorsy, I feel that. I feel that I go back to a primordial time where, when you're out in the woods, there's not a McDonald's. I don't even have my phone on me. That doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is nature and the air that I breathe in my lungs and the moment. And take it all in. I did do a whole podcast titled Into the Wild that is worth listening to. Yeah, it falls along a lot of these topics we're talking about to simplify things in life. Because life is simple yet extremely complex. But I think with the meaning of life, it helps to think of those simple things. Back to relationships. How important are our relationships with others? People are the heaviest components of our life. It's unquestionable. How we relate to others. To pay it forward. To have a conscience of that. To care about other people. To have compassion and empathy for others. If everybody has that, that's a great cycle. Unfortunately, in our world, there's so much, how do I put this? I don't know. There's a lot of fear in our world. I think a lot of that comes from politics. Sometimes marketing companies, buy this will make you better, take this drug or drink this, eat this will make you happy. And things aren't always positive. And I think that's a big, big unfortunate part of our world. There's a lot of illusions going on. The fear's a big one. I believe in rational fear. But irrational fear can be a dangerous element in society. Back to relationships, got to focus on that. We need to pay attention to how we are to other people. I'm in a fortunate position that doing this whole pro skateboarding thing for 20 years now. 20 years. I thought it would last maybe a year or two tops. And here I am. But I've learned a lot through this experience. And skateboarding's important. It's fun. It's what I do. It's the main card. People know me as that. But it's not the most important thing I do at all. The most important thing I do with this whole skateboard thing, pro skater thing, is to be a mentor. Set examples, to communicate, to reach out, to make a difference. Because I've had mentors in my life that were huge parts of my life. They still are. Things that inspired me or people, like my guitar teacher, that's a great example. It's, 14, 15, 16 years old. That individual made a huge impact on my life. Sure, he taught me about learning pentatonic scales and how to record and write songs. But the extra effort that he gave me made a huge impact on me. He could have just taught me the scales, whatever, have a nice day. No, he did a lot of neat things. Brad Shreve's his name, by the way. He was my Obi-Wan, I always say. But he'd come to my house, record, or when I did go to lessons, it was always like after hours, so there was never a time limit. We didn't even go in the studio. We'd be out in the lobby. It was awesome. And that's one example. I have school teachers that were mentors and role models. And of course our parents. Boy, oh boy, was I very fortunate to have the set of parents that I did. And I can go on and on about that. My father, he's getting ready, next week, Tuesday, to turn 79 years old. whoa, it's a big number. But he's the exact same age as Paul McCartney and Harrison Ford. Two people that I admire and have followed their career and think highly of them. But they're not my father. My father, Charlie Brown, that's his name. Yep, like the cartoon. And he does favor him. He looks like him. But he taught me a lot. And I think a lot of our philosophies on the meaning of life comes from our parents. And I was blessed that my parents instilled a lot of morals and values in me that still go on to this day. And when my mother passed away, so much changed. And, my dad took on the role of mother and father. And I think he did an exceptional job looking back. At the time, it was kind of strange because, I don't know, it's like he just said it was like she had went on a cruise and never came back. That's kind of how he summed it up. And he taught my brother that, we went to school the next day after she passed away. It wasn't like we took 2 months off to grieve. We just kept going. My mother would have wanted that too. She wouldn't want us to sulk in misery and we kept going because life is about being productive and yes, to pay homage and to honor her memory, but to always keep moving forward. And my father was a great example of that. He displayed a lot of strength after her passing. And my father and I have a wonderful relationship. We've gone through a lot of changes. I mean, through high school and all. I thought we were so different because when he was in high school, he was the football jock guy, kind of, I don't want to say a square, that might be pushing it, but he was a cool guy. And, when I was in high school, I was just like guitar playing, skateboarding, punk rock, rebellious, kind of long earring, long hair, mullet. So I thought my dad and I were kind of worlds apart. And he even joked one time. Well, actually, I started the joke. I said, we probably wouldn't have been friends in high school. And he said, you're probably right. And that was years ago we had that discussion. Well, fast forward to today. My father and I, we talk a lot. And we do maybe lunches a couple times a week. But our brains, I can say this now, the older I get, I can see it, are very similar. We have a lot of the same interests. We both listen to NPR. I got the classical music playing every night. We have the same views on, for the most part, like politics and movies, art, music. And I see the way his wheels turn and my wheels turn in a similar fashion. So I was lucky to have that and still have that. He's 79. My dad's obsessed with the obituary. Well, this guy passed away. He's only 64. Like, he even said he started writing his obituary. That's a little bit heavy for me, but he's got a radar. He's kind of always thinking, and I think that's why we've gotten closer through the years. Especially the recent years, because, his hourglass is thinning as far as life. So, yeah, the people that are in your life, hold on close, you never know. They could be gone. We will be gone. We don't think a lot about that in life, that we're all headed to that direction. It's inevitable, folks. We're all going to die. It sounds so morbid, but it's the truth. So you don't want to harp and focus on it and obsess on that. However, it's okay to have that element in your head of, I better think about what I'm doing today because might not be a tomorrow. Not only that, what we do today, connecting this to our relationships with others, is we can live on through people. Boy, can we do that. And that's a biggie. So me being a mentor or a role model, I taught guitar for 10 years before the whole skateboarding thing happened in 2002. So after I graduated high school, from 1992 to 2002, I taught guitar. And I knew I wanted to be more than just a guitar teacher. So I would teach, but I was also a therapist. These women would come in and start telling me about their divorces or breakups or whatever. And I started to notice, especially with the younger guys too, like, what I say outside of teaching, they connect to. And that's an important element in teaching. If you think about some of your best teachers, yes, in high school or whatever, they taught you all these lessons, but they always interjected their own life into their teachings. That's a good teacher. Something you can relate to and connect to. And stuff like that lives on. And not only that, when people that have inspired me, I try to give that to others. You see the cycle? And that's what you kind of want to do in life. Pay attention to what you're doing in your relationships and how you treat people. The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Boy, is that true. Something else I'm a big fan of, an advocate, is outer space. I'm a nerd. I can't tell you how many documentaries I have on outer space and our solar system and the bigger picture of what's out there. How fascinating is it? I mean, it's not a little deal that they put a man on the moon. Take it back to that day and what it took to get that individual up there. These documentaries are phenomenal. The Apollo 11 and all that. And it took hundreds of people to make that happen. They didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, we're going to build a spaceship and spend $5 and just shoot up there and then here we are. No. I almost did a whole podcast, I still might, on that whole thing. But that puts things into perspective too, on how we're huge as individuals and what we can do, but we're also like really little. Take an airplane ride. You're 30,000 feet above the ground and you can't even see people. It's phenomenal. It makes you put things into perspective. Like, wow, this is Earth. This is amazing. But we're so small. And we populate that area with all the other animals and everything. There's a lot of science going on there. And can I give you a reason why that's there? My reason is I don't know. And it's great, and I respect that others have philosophies and theories of why we're here. But again, back to what I said earlier, I simplify things. This is just my view. And I can't really look out of our solar system or my family, how I got here. I mean, physically, I had two individuals that were high school sweethearts, got married, had my brother and I. My dad was a baby doctor, a gynecologist for 35 years. A prominent one. People liked my dad. And growing up with that topic, as it not being an uncomfortable topic in our household, I respected it and I understood it. I knew that I came from my parents. I was never taught that the stork dropped me off the doorstep, and I knew exactly how and why I was brought here. And we're talking about the meaning of life, so it's appropriate because and no matter who you are, you do have a mother and father. Even if you don't know them or whatever relationship you have with them, great or good or terrible or awful, that's how you got here. And so back to the weight and heaviness and the importance of our parents. And so if you are a parent, your impact on that child is huge. I mean, wow, you have to pay attention to that. Now, my personal life, I've never had any blood children. I don't talk a lot about my love life or my personal life. Through my skateboarding and everything, I'm just kind of, that's my focus and that's what I put out there. But I definitely have a private life, and I've been in relationships, and I've never had blood children. However, I have definitely been involved with people where I was the father figure. And I got to experience that. And that's monumental. That's huge. Going through that experience and learning, things about parenthood. Parenting is no easy task. There's countless books and advice and all this stuff, which is great, but nothing beats experience, putting yourself in that position. It could be something as simple as teaching a child how to ride a bike, which I've done on a couple occasions, and what that entails. Something simple, yeah, but it takes you back to your own childhood. For me, the way my father taught me, I will never forget this. It was on Townsend Circle. I would say it was approximately, what year would that have been? 1975, maybe? 76? Just moved to town. Anyways, I had this little blue Schwinn. And no training wheels, of course. God forbid. I kind of wish I had those. But my dad, being him, he was so frustrated. I went to the top of this hill, and my dad just pushed me. He pushed me down the hill. And here I go all the way down this hill. And there's one tree at the very bottom. And, of course, I ran right into it. Boom. I was so angry. But you know what? He went inside this and that. I learned to ride the bike that way. I felt the balance and the momentum of how to do it. And it was that same day that I was going around that circle, on Townsend Circle, on my little Schwinn bike. Now I'm a little easier on the teaching of riding bikes. It's okay to have some training wheels, but the patience with the kid and quite an experience. And that's just one small example. Parenthood. Nothing can be heavier, tricky. I think being creative is the most important thing you can do as a parent. To be creative and to listen, to have patience. I mean, I can't imagine. I've never gone through the whole, the baby being born and the early stages, the diapers, oh my goodness gracious. That is something else. Have to hand it to the parents. Mothers are important. Always respected women. And of course, fathers. There's a lot of single fathers out there raising kids, and you gotta hand it to them too. They kind of get a bad rap, They just assume the woman always gets the kid if there's a divorce or something. But there's a lot of guys out there that are being amazing fathers too. Parenthood, mothers, fathers. What a task. The teenage years. I did a whole podcast on this. And I've experienced father moments of that as well, dealing with teenagers. And that, wow, teenagers are all question marks. I was a teenager. I did a whole entire book, Speedy Entry, Advice for the Rebel with a Cause Teenager. My favorite book I've written. Because I really delve into that time period of my life. And that is a tricky time period. Because when you're a teenager, questioning authority, you're going through so many changes, physically, mentally, you're trying to figure out who you are. It's an amazing time of life. It's awesome. But with parenting, it's a challenge. And of course, hopefully, those morals and values that you put in there, and hopefully you were creative and you disciplined on a good level, that is something they can take into their life. I'm not an expert on this topic, but who is? You can't. My grandma, she had 8 siblings. So there's a total of 9 of these. 9 kids. Yeah. 8 girls and 1 boy. My uncle, great uncle, Roy. And I can't imagine that household. They were farmers, so I think that was the reasoning behind a lot of that. The Fishers. They were award-winning pig farmers. Yes. I am a part of that bloodline. Something else my dad always said was that you're never done being a parent. And I believe that. You're always going to, if you have some offspring through their life, you're still hopefully part of their life. That's important. And there's things I agree with the way my parents raised me, and there's maybe some things I disagree with, and that's okay too. When you have your own kids, you can change that. You can have a different relationship with your children. Maybe your parents didn't say they loved you, or maybe didn't praise you enough on certain things, or listen to you enough. So, if you do have children or teenagers, or you can maybe put those things forward more, things that they lacked. And hopefully every generation it gets better. That's the idea, the fantasy. And it's worth a go. It's worth trying to improve things, because like my dad's generation, it was completely different. He told me one time that his father never told him that he loved him. And my dad defended it and said, this is great. He said there was no need to, because it was understood. And that's great. That worked for him. But, I think you should let your kids know verbally as well. Words are very important. I figured that out pretty early on in my life when I started writing, and of course I became an author. That's why I did it. Words are important. You can reach people. And but your own children, geez, talk to them, communicate, and not in a preacher way, meaning pointing fingers and just it does no good, especially with a teenager. Say, well, when I was your age, we didn't have to do. They don't care. Say what you want. Teenagers. Something else. I think it's important to respect children. They're smart. They pick up on things. I was never for severe baby talk that people do to babies or to children. Like, oh, doo baby talk. Just some of that's okay, right? It's expected. It's unavoidable. It's like when you see a cute kitten, you can't help but go, ooh. But with children, they pick up on that. And I was always one to talk to that child no different than I would talk to anybody else. Just, hey, what's up? Hey, little guy. Not the whole goo goo gaga. I also think it's important to invest time in their interests. So if your child maybe is into dancing or something, show an interest. Don't deflect it. Pay attention to what their interests are. Support it. That's the word I'm looking for. It's like my skateboarding. When I started skateboarding, this is a bit of a slight to my parents. They kind of just ugh. Especially when I kept skateboarding, it wasn't just like a little fad thing. And looking back, I wish my dad kind of recognized it a little more. He did as I got older, especially when it became my career. He started to notice that, wow, that's not just a piece of wood with 4 wheels that spin. It's not a toy. It's a microphone. It's exercise. It's a lifestyle. It's community. It's my social life. So never downplay maybe what your kids or your teenagers are into. I think that's something to keep in mind. And that they might take a different path than you took. I took a pretty different path than my parents did in life. My timeline was a lot different. I have an older brother, and he followed my parents' timeline a little more like, okay, graduate high school, go to college, go to grad school, get married, have a kid, do your job forever, retire, done. And you know what? That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That's honorable if that's their choice. My grandparents lived, both sets of grandparents, they got married, had the kids. Both sets of grandparents worked at the same HPM plant for 35 years. And that's honorable. I mean, they were providing for their family, and they were happy. They retired. They had great lives. They were very involved in my brother and I's lives. But if you're a child or goes a different direction, that's okay too. My direction was a lot different than my brother's. I didn't go to college. Looking back, I probably should have. But where I was at the time, I was an entrepreneur. I was so independent. I had direction, and I made some good choices. I stayed drug-free. I saved my money. And I ended up teaching music and guitar for 10 years, and the whole skateboard thing fell in my lap. And I've been doing that again for 20 years. It is my 20th year this year. What are we in? 2022. That's crazy. And my timeline's still going. Knock on wood. But the objective in my life was still, to be to happiness. That's important. I think so many people go through their lives like robots and don't pay attention to their pursuit of happiness. I did a whole podcast on this. You can check that out. There's two types of motivation in life. There's intrinsic and extrinsic. I talked about these before. The intrinsic is looking inward and what's important, meaning character development, our relationships with others, things that aren't really visible. Whereas extrinsic, it's like cars, the newest iPhone, toys, things that you think will bring you happiness but don't necessarily do. And I think our world has this completely upside down. Intrinsic is much more important. Like I said, the relationships with others and things we can't really see, but efforts that are positive. And in life, boy, is that important. Life, our timelines. There's so many elements to life. The Beatles said it best. All you need is love. I believe in love. Love is important. I think that's part of life. To love and to be loved. And to be kind to each other. Life is so short. The older you get... Boy, I keep sounding like my father saying these sentences. But the older you get, the faster time goes. Think of an hourglass turning upside down. That sand, it keeps going faster and faster as the years go by. So that really makes you hold on to things and to be sentimental and to appreciate the here and now. I make sure to live life to the fullest. I think that's why I skate. No, I know that's why I skateboard or play guitar. I mean, when I'm doing these activities, I feel alive. I feel my heart beating, my pulse racing, and the adrenaline, and that's why I like to be outside. I love scenery. I love to take life in, to appreciate everything, my surroundings. Life is what you make it. Same with family. Family is what you make it. Family is very, very important. It doesn't always have to be blood family members. You could have friends that you're really involved with and close with, maybe 10 times closer with than your blood family. And that's okay. That can still be your family. It's like people that marry into people that already have children, and then they become a new family. That's wonderful. That counts. That's important. Family is what you make it. Like I said, I've never had any blood children, but I've had relationships that were just as valuable, just as important, if not more. It's all in who you invest your time with, the more I think about it and the more I talk about this topic, the meaning of life goes back all to relationships and people and family. That's my meaning of life. And to be productive, to give back to society, to be a productive member of society is important. To be alert, to pay attention to our surroundings, and to learn from our experiences. That's where wisdom comes from. And I know, being on this planet for 48 years, that I've gained some because of my experiences. I've been through some tough times. I always say this: adversity makes strong people. And that's an important part of life too. The struggles, everybody has one. It's never ending. We all have something we're battling. We're going through something, whether it's a drama, a sickness, whatever it is. Don't let it define you. I learned that from my parents, especially my mom. I can't talk about her enough. But when she had cancer, when I was 16, people didn't know it. You know, she might have lost her hair from chemotherapy, but she wore a wig. People complimented her hair. Where did you get your hair cut? And the way that she was so productive, even when she was having chemo visits, she was a realtor at the time, a real estate agent, and she was negotiating deals. She didn't tell a person on the phone that she was in a hospital room. My point is to make the best of what we have and to be productive. Do something positive as well. Time's valuable. Appreciate the good things. Appreciate what you have. And that does not mean like, oh, I have a new flat screen TV that's 100 feet big. It means the air in our lungs, our vision, our hearing, whatever trait, you know. I wake up every day and it's a new day, and I feel lucky that I woke up. That I can just have a day. Something so simple. And that's my age talking right there. To think, wow. I used to always make fun of old people that would obsess about the weather. Always, what's the weather? I'm that person now. When it's sunny out, I'm in a better mood. And that's life. You get older and the wisdom comes. Stay focused here on what I'm talking about. Learn from your experiences. I think that's a fault in people, is you go through a horrible experience. Maybe it's a relationship that went bad. And all these bad things happen. And you look back and say, well, that was a waste of time. What I could have... No. Optimism. I would look at that experience and say, you know what? I'm glad I went through that. Because I learned a lot from that. And it's affected my future relationships. Making better choices. And not taking for granted the person I'm with or the experiences I'm having means something. That's how I look at it. That's life. Life is time too. How we fill up these minutes, what we do. I'm all for recreation, I'm all for downtime and enjoying it, but also to be productive. We all have dreams. Start them today. People always ask, oh, well, I want to be an author or whatever. They ask my advice. I tell them, if you want to be an author, write the book. Don't worry about being published or anything. Do it. It's Yoda there. Just do it. Do or do not. I think that's what he said. I do know. I'm a Star Wars nerd. Yes, guilty. And to make the best of what you do have at this moment. Don't take life for granted, please. Life is delicate, very delicate. I learned that through my experiences and, of course, my mother's death. And honor the people that aren't here anymore. That makes you think a lot about the meaning of life. Somebody close to my father said that I post too many things about my mom. Somehow on Facebook, says, it's another mom post. Well, you know what? that's been therapeutic for me, and it's a way that I keep her memory alive. I honor her life. Out of my whole family, I'm the one who always brings my mother's name up. Yeah, why not? She lives on through my brother and I, and all the people that she inspired and reached. A few years back for Christmas, I went out and bought a bunch of these gold snowflakes, and I printed out her picture, and I put it on there, and I gave it to everybody, and I saw it on my brother's tree a few years back. And there might have been that weird, awkward moment like, oh, yeah, Mom, but you know what? It said a lot. I could have spent $500 on something, given it to a family member, but that thing is priceless. So honor those that are no longer here. Live in their memory. Bring it alive. Because they would have wanted that. And makes you think of your own life. I like to think, wow, if I was gone tomorrow, geez, what a thought, would I live on? What was my legacy? And I think of all the things I've done, and I'm not going to toot my own horn on my credits. I've done some stuff. It's been pretty gnarly, I won't lie, especially through the skateboarding career. But I know that I will live on through all the individuals, through all my travels, the people that I touched and that I inspired, all the hospital visits, everything I did. That is what matters. Not if I made any money, not even where I went or my accolades or my credits, but the people. That's what it was all about. And hopefully that's how I lived on, through other people. A religious view will be, yeah, you go to heaven and, this and that. How do we live on? Well, I believe that we live on through people. There's a lot of truth and weight in that. My mother, she's not here right now. But darn it, I'm here right now because of her. So the things I'm doing I'm a result of, because of her, I live on. I'm part of her life still. And again, I don't have blood children, but what I've given to children in life that I've been involved with, that lives on through them. We live on through other people. Not just children, but people we reach. Relationships. And the meaning of life. It's a good time to wrap it up, really. Life is delicate. Through this whole podcast, I've been thinking of an individual named Michael Terwilliger, somebody that I went to school with. And we were close. And after we graduated, he became a youth minister. And he knew I was teaching guitar. This was in the early 90s. So he would come into my studio and I'd give him a couple lessons. And then he went off to college. And he used to mail me cassette tapes of songs he wanted to learn. And he'd give me a check in there. It was incredible. Mike was an amazing person. I still communicate with his mother on Facebook, and I see her in the community a lot. And I always make sure to bring up Mike. Well, Mike, he had a tragic accident. He was going to the town of Shreve. He was in our town, and there was a railroad track that had the bar that would go down, and that bar was broken for several months, and he went through it, and he was struck by a train, and his life, boom, was over in a split second. And he had just had a baby and was married, and he had reached so many people. He lives on through those people. That's an example of, how delicate life can be. And that accident happened many years ago. It seems like yesterday. Much like my mother's passing. And those were lives that were cut short, but they weren't wasted. Because they do live on. The meaning of life. That's it, folks. Living on through others, paying attention to the here and now. And I leave you today with a song that I just discovered a couple days ago through my home movies on VHS tapes. I digitized it, put it on DVD, and it's a song of me singing the song Yesterday. And I was just like 16 or so, and it was shortly after my mother had passed away. And the weight of that song was that I'd played that song at a talent show, a few months before that. And she was in the audience. That's the last time my mother heard me perform and sing live. And it was that song, the song Yesterday. So in this recording that you're getting ready to hear, when I was playing this, again, I was like 16, and she had passed by this point, but I was thinking of her as I sung this tune at the talent show that this recording was taken from. Alrighty, everybody. Till next time, stay positive, have hope and optimism. This is Doug Brown, signing off for Method Airwaves.
Yesterday